When I was younger, I thought that my sister lived the perfect high school life. She was 3 years my senior, and she was graduating from high school as I was going into it. And let me tell you, I just thought she lived the perfect, ideal life for a high schooler. I mean, the yearbook was filled with her pictures. And not just activities she was in, like, publishing and DECA and other things like this. Oh no, I mean, if she was dancing at one of the, dances, there was a photo of her there. If she was cheering on, one of the teams, there was photos of her. I mean, she was just the person to capture. And she was the prize student of the advanced placement French 4 class. I mean, she was tops of the class, total honors, and walked out with AA+ grades, if you can believe that. Had this boyfriend who was constantly doting on her, 1 year older than her, and yet he came back to the school to take her to homecoming and senior prom and things like that. Yeah, I thought she just had everything. And I knew I could never have that. At least I believed it. I was the opposite. I was the scrawny geek that liked comics. I was the one who bought double issues of his favorite episodes and adventures so that he could tear the pages out and wallpaper the door and inside of his locker with them. I was the loser. And I had one voice in my head that said the same thing over and over and over again. And I never forgot it, and I never quite let it shut up. And it said, "You're not good enough." So anytime I started to get the nerve up, should I try out for that play? Should I, enter this art contest? Should I try this? Should I try that? No, you're not good enough. What about this? No, you can't do that. You're not good enough. And it stopped me from doing a lot of things. Clubs I didn't join, events I didn't attend, things I didn't try, because I was convinced that I wasn't good enough. That's for other people. That's for better people. That's for people like my sister. It's not for me. Well, it all came to a head in 1985 when our senior banquet rolled around, and there was a girl who was a real rah-rah. And she was following me around constantly, from one class to another. I mean, she hounded me in the couple classes we had together. "Are you going to be at the senior banquet, Brian? Are you going to be at the senior banquet? Tell me, I need to know. Are you going to be at the senior banquet?" Now, I couldn't figure out why it was she was constantly after me. It was driving me nuts. I just assumed she was trying to get a head count. I mean, she was part of the committee. She was part of every committee. And I figured she was counting the money, because there was an entrance fee to get in, which I didn't have. Eventually, at the end of like 5th or 6th hour, I finally told her, yes, I'm going to be there. Get out of my face. I'll be at your stupid banquet. And she said, "Oh, good." And she wrote it down and went on her way. I stayed home that night reading comic books. I didn't have the $12 to pay for my ticket price. And even if I did, I couldn't get a date. I didn't try very hard, but I didn't have a date. I didn't want to walk in alone. Everyone else was in couples, or so I thought. Well, the following morning at school, I was being treated like absolute shit. I mean, worse than the cringing of people who might come after me that I imagined, and the usual bullies that picked on the geeks. There were people shoulder bumping me in the hallway. A guy pushed me into a locker. Somebody else tripped me, and when I fell down, they walked over the papers that I dropped. It was terrible. I get in the cold shoulder in class. The whole thing was a mess. By the time I got around to lunchtime, I was at my locker, and I was pissed, throwing books in, and I didn't know what was going on. And my friend Greg walked up, and he leaned against the door of the locker next to me, and he just looked at me and said, "I bet you think you're really something, huh?" Well, that was it. That was when I blew my stack, because I didn't know what was going on, and I just lost it. I said, "All right, whatever the hell's going on, fine. Get your bit in, too. Go ahead and kick me or punch me or knock me over or stick a pencil in my eye. I don't care." I just completely threw a fit. Now, he'd known me long enough at that point that he looked at me and he could see that I was sincere. And he said, "You really don't know what's going on, do you?" And I said, "Other than me being everyone's punching bag? No. What's going on?" And he said, "You weren't at the senior banquet last night." And I said, "No, I wasn't at the senior banquet. So what?" And he said, "You don't know what happens at the senior banquet, do you?" And I said, "No. Some fancy schmancy dinner and the Honor Society gets praised and who knows." And he said, No. There's an award ceremony for mock elections." I said, "So?" And he said, prettiest smile, cutest couple, class clown, things like that." I said, "What does that have to do with me? I'm not noticed enough to be a clown. I don't have a pretty smile. I'm not a He said, No. The entire class pretty much unanimously voted you class artist. And there was an award waiting for you. That's why the rah-rah was going nuts. She wanted to see if you would be there to receive it. Everyone got a little speech, but yours was one of the longest. The MC stood there for 15 minutes talking about unsung heroes and then called you up to get your award. And you were nowhere to be found. Everyone looked to the rah-rah and she said, "He told me he was going to be here." Everybody in the senior class thought that was my big screw you to them. An award waiting for me. And I didn't show up because I didn't want them to see what a loser I was. You know, it's funny. There was a senior banquet later for the choir banquet. I didn't go to that one either. My act didn't get into the spring show, despite how hard I tried to get in there. I never made it into any of the specialty choirs, never had a solo. So I didn't go. I didn't realize that the choir director had created an entirely new award just for me, for the greatest showing of enthusiasm and choir spirit. Don't go to the senior banquet. Don't go to the choir banquet. You're not good enough. How many times do we lose out on things? Do we miss out on things? Do we completely cut ourselves away from things because we think we're not good enough? I'd never be as good as my sister. Well, as an adult, guess what I finally found out? The yearbook was filled with her pictures because she was on the yearbook staff and had final say of which photos would be chosen. She was the best student in French class because it was an independent study and she was the only kid there. And that incredible track team boyfriend that came back to take her to homecoming, he ran off with a guy from Pittsburgh. The only person you should ever be competing against is yourself. And you have so much to offer. There's so much to do, so much to be. Never, ever look down on yourself. Never, ever say, "I'm not good enough for that. I'm not good enough." How are you going to know how good you are until you try? Until you reach out, until you do it. Make that video. Write that story. Sing that song. Paint that picture. Enter that contest. Stand up and try out for that team, for that play, for that group, for that band. Ask out that person you've had your eye on but are afraid to talk to. And you know, it's not so much a concern about wondering, "Oh, am I a loser?" Everyone becomes a loser when you don't try something. All of the groups that can be enriched by you belonging to them, all the hearts that you can touch, the friends that you can make, the experiences that you can relish and enjoy, and then share with others. It doesn't matter if you're gay or you're straight, if you're open, if you're in the closet, if whatever. Forget the ifs. We make our own ifs. Go for it. Try it. And live. Are you good enough? You better believe it.